And I can't tell if it's that nobody cares or nobody's paying attention, but the amount of money we waste in this country is eye-watering. So let's take a dive, shall we? Welcome to Chicks and Balances. I ran out of blonde friends, so I will be doing this episode by myself. I really wanted to discuss the hot button issue that is Canadian accountability in finances and procurement. These past few weeks, people have become outraged over the prospect of Julie Antoinette retaining her pension and expense account, despite not having completed her 5 years of being Canada's best paid and least hardworking bureaucrat. So frustrating and so typical of Canadians to lose their minds over such little money. For a country that has no problem spending $400 billion to keep unemployed students unemployed, you think that $150,000 wasn't very much. But Canada's own Ellen DeGeneres is facing backlash after having allegedly abused and humiliated her employees. Payette bullied her bureaucratic employees by asking them very personal questions like, "What is it that you do here?" Canada's UNIT Club, also known as the Canadian Senate, has motioned to get her pension revoked, but nothing fruitful will likely come of it. And again, Canadians mourn pocket change. This is such a pattern, and this is best illustrated in the media's coverage over MP Derek Sloan accepting an $131 donation from a well-known white supremacist. The white supremacist in question, however, only became well-known once the CBC blasted his face all over. And of course, yes, Conservatives proceeded by kicking Sloan out of caucus for a sum smaller than however much it takes to decorate every room of Aaron O'Toole's house with Canadian flags, to remind you that he loves this country. Truly, it just goes to show how distracted we are when it comes to our nation's finances. While the media was busy getting us all riled up over a sum so minuscule, it might as well have been the NDP's donations, we lose sight of Canada's fiscal fuck-ups. It never ceases to surprise me when I see all these Canadian university students with blue hair and stick and poke face tattoos decry abuses of power and protest on the streets about things that are going on in the US and pay no heed to how much waste and corruption occurs in Canada. You know how many people are held accountable for those? But, you're staying diligent. Our military procurement strategy has been to shoot first and ask questions about why the hell the gun's not working later. Canada, acting as though we had won Normandy thanks to our pathetic pistols, is one of the last 5 countries still using World War II era handguns. The guns are so unwieldy that a marksman noted that after 20 shots, the hammer bite would cut his hand open. Military personnel have commented that if ever they're forced to use these guns in combat, they'd be better off throwing it than shooting it. For countries like Britain, replacing these guns wasn't a big issue. It took them 2 years, $15 million later. For Canada, it's as long and as arduous as you can imagine it is. And it's not just because we write sorry on all of our bullets. The preliminary estimate is between $50 and $99 million. And the anticipated timeline is actually much more hilarious. We started in 2017 with options analysis, 2020 definition approval, 2022 implementation approval, 2022 request for proposal release, 2023 contract award, and 2026 to 2036 final delivery. And just last month, the PBO reported that the cost of a new Navy warship program jumped again. Shocking. From $14 billion to $77 billion. It would be less expensive to just pay off our enemies. And, we've been hearing a lot about how, Justin Trudeau has fucked up our vaccine procurement and, phantom vaccines suck. But you know what also sucks? Phantom paychecks. The Phoenix pay system under Harper would have been the biggest gaffe of the decade had Trudeau not fucked up the vaccine purchasing so badly. Behaving like a Nigerian prince fleecing your grandmother, IBM has been robbing us blind. Very far from the initial estimate of $5.7 million to service the Phoenix payroll program, IBM is now charging Canadians $400 million in servicing costs alone. So rather than saving the $70 million, Canada is actually $2.6 billion in the hole, which means that it takes us $300 per federal employee just to get them their paycheck. The Globe and Mail reported that not a single senior bureaucrat in charge of Phoenix was fired. Great. And commentators often disparage Canada for being so culturally fragmented, but one thing does bring us together, and that's government fiscal ineptitude. It cost $40 million to light up the Jacques Cartier Bridge in Montreal. Nobody asked for that. The Ontario government just spent $2.5 million on contact tracing bracelets. Likely a very good investment considering that the federal government couldn't even convince people to download an app on their phone. Ottawa's LRT system was $1.2 billion over budget, and I would be remiss if I did not mention our very eco-friendly pipeline that the government purchased in 2018. The initial estimate was $7.4 billion, and of course now it is $12.6 billion. Ottawa is also being told to put a little slush fund aside, $600 million to be precise, in case unforeseen expenses occur. One likely unforeseen cost will be rerouting, of course, when some group of white activists find out that an ancient song owl used to take shits there. And we can't discuss failed spending without mentioning Indigenous projects. The Indigenous community of 6 nations received funds for a water treatment plant in 2014. The catch? Well, it came with no cash to run it or operate it, and no plans as to how to connect it to people's homes. So currently, the residences of 6 nations are still running without clean drinking water. But it hasn't been a total failure. Government officials are reporting that the tank is a really good place to store bottled water. This past year, we've spent a ton of time reflecting on privilege and inequality in our country, but we always forget that there is a very special group of elites in our society that always get a pass. Government officials. In my humble opinion, costing us billions and not getting fired for it sounds pretty fucking privileged to me. They spend, they lie, they make mistakes, and there is no accountability. Pretty sure if you skim $20 from your boss at your restaurant job, you'd get canned. It's like we're all in the same video game, except they're the only ones that get to respawn. You know, when you work for the government, one of the first things they do when you get there is they make you swear an oath to serve the Canadian public. I've done it, you've probably done it, but for many, the philosophy and the enforcement of service kind of ends there. If Canada was a wounded soldier in a war movie and about to get her leg amputated, her last words would be, "Save the shoe, please."